Welcome to Malicious Compliance. I found some wonderful stories that I'd like to share with you, helping you to remember that you should always be careful about what you ask for. So without further ado, let's go. I used to work for a bank at a very affluent university town. We sometimes had the belligerent customers. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it had something to do with having bad service at a different branch, or even a call center. So this guy comes in telling me how terrible our bank is, which I actually agree, and how much better other banks are, and he really doesn't use his account, and if I didn't sort out the problem, he would take his business elsewhere. That's a threat that he wanted to use anyway. So after he got done with that threat, I decided to ask him if he wanted to close his account, and his pride, it wouldn't let him back down from this original threat, especially while he was in front of a lot of other people. So he confirms. Then he carries on his tirade. I immediately close his bank account, and I hand over his money. While he's still badgering at me, I ask him if there's anything else I can do for him. Then he starts complaining about me closing his account. So I tell him, unless he wants to start up another account, he needs to leave. Well, the situation was very tense and very loud and very shouty. I thought it could be taken down a peg. So I took away the only tool that he could threaten me with. Might sound kind of harsh, but screw that guy and screw retail. This happened around Christmas or New Year's. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy back in the 1970s, and they opened a restaurant. When they passed away, the restaurant went to my parents. Over the decades, they grew and expanded it. I've been working in that restaurant since I was 15. Over that time, my parents have gotten older, and eventually they retired, becoming snowbirds, going to Florida for the winters. They left me the restaurant about a few years ago, but still retained a small percentage of ownership, so that they would have a revenue stream for their savings and annuity. As soon as I gained control, I pretty much modernized the place, remodeled the restaurant, changed the logo, and put out ads. I invited food critics, bloggers, vloggers, and etc. It was slow at first. I began to think that the loan I took out was a big mistake. I was afraid it was going to ruin a 3-generation family business. But eventually, it began to work. A semi-famous YouTuber featured us on one of his videos, and that catalyst brought in more people to review, and eventually we were seeing 5 to 10 times the business that we usually got. We became a hotspot for major events. It wasn't uncommon for celebrities to come in. On those nights, I even arranged for high-profile chefs to come in so that they could cook for our guests. It cost a fortune. So during the holidays, we were beyond packed. It got to the point where people had to make reservations in July to get a table in December. This process took years to get where we are now. When we get busy, I don't just sit back in the office. I'm on the floor, doing whatever is needed to be done, even if it means just greeting people, bussing tables, or even mopping the floor. Other nights, when we have high-profile guests, I'm usually in a blazer and acting like I'm in charge, since I'm the owner. On one night, a group of 6 women walk in. 5 of them look like they're in their early 20s, and the head of the group, this woman looks like she's in her mid-20s. Best theory? She's probably one of the 4 other girls' older sister, or probably an older sorority sister to incoming college freshmen, maybe. I was greeting at the door. As they were walking up, the Queen Bee Karen comes up, telling the baby Karens how this place was awesome, how the food is amazing, and there might even be celebrities here. When she came up to me, she told me she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course. Can I please get your name on the reservation?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's okay. The owner's a personal friend of mine. He says he always has 1 or 2 tables kept open for me and special guests, and he said we could have one of those tonight." Now, generally, this is true for many high-profile restaurants. Lately, I have been doing that as well, but I had no clue who this woman was, and I have definitely never spoken to her about this. I did get that she was trying to get in without a reservation, but she literally picked the worst person to possibly talk to about this. I told her, "I'm sorry, but we don't have any seats available, and anyone without reservations, as you can see, we don't have any seats available." I didn't want to go all out and say, "I'm the owner, and we never spoke before," and I never promised a thing because I didn't want to embarrass her in front of her friends at first. She then went on and said out loud to one of her friends to take a picture of me, that she will speak to the owner later and make sure that I'm either cleaning the toilet or fired. The other girls were following her lead, and they were like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I'm not sure if they were in on it, or they honestly thought that she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen went on to say out loud, "Look, you can just give us a table, or I can make your life very difficult for you. This is not worth losing your job." Constantly pointing, just to try to put me down. Saying things like, "Obviously you aren't anyone here, because if you were, you'd know who I am. And never try telling me anything other than yes, of course." Constantly trying to belittle me and get a table. At this point, it was a long day for me. And the way I saw it, I had 3 options. 1, tell her that I'm the owner and just call her out on all of this. 2, give her a table and let it be. Or 3, teach Queen Bee Karen a lesson and her little minions. I chose option 3 for various reasons, including some personality flaws that I'm aware of that I have, but I like to think that it was at least 50% really wanting to teach them a lesson. I smiled at her and I said, "Of course, ma'am. Follow me, please." I took her to 3 tables that we kept open, in case celebrities come in. It happens from time to time. I told her that I apologized for everything, and that she was right, and it would be simpler just to give her a table. And I also told her that the first 3 rounds of drinks were complimentary. I set them down, and I personally served them. As they were sitting down, I told them that I need at least 1 credit card and IDs, so that I can keep them on file, and I'd give them back before they leave. Queen Bee gave me her cards. She told the baby Karen minions that tonight was on her, so I took their orders, and I got them their free drinks, and I told them that due to how busy we were that night, there might be a delay on the food, but all the girls were thinking about was their free rounds of drinks. They ordered their 3 rounds of drinks, still no food. They eventually called me to check on it, the whole time giving me the world's most nasty attitude. I told them that I would check on it, and I asked if they wanted any more drinks. They ordered 2 rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this time, they're all drunk, having done nothing but drink on an empty stomach most of the night. As more food arrives and more drinks are ordered, what these girls never realized was that they were at a VIP table, which alone cost a few $1,000s just to sit in. But I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them for was the super expensive cocktails, which they had throughout the night. Except for the first 3 rounds, which I did cover, and since they were sitting in the VIP section, the menus were quite a bit different, and they didn't say the price on them. That's a trade secret. And in addition, it had certain higher end menu options, such as white truffles, black caviar dishes, specially imported goods, and the like. At one point of the night, I honestly was rethinking what I was doing, and I thought I might be going too far, for these girls might not know any better. But a few things reassured me throughout the night, such as the baby Karens asking me if I felt worthless, plus one of my employees overheard them talking about effing with me and discussing how to screw with me to the point that they can always get a table for me whenever they wanted. I also overheard them say, "He's cute, but I'd never date him. He's a waiter. Like, he's such a pushover." There was a bunch of comments like that the whole night. So I kept on with our life lesson. By the end of the night, each girl racked up a bill around $500 to $600 per girl. When I handed Karen the bill of over $4,000, including tip of course, I have never seen anyone sober up so quickly. She went from laughing to giggling to nearly being in tears. She called me over instantly and asked, "Is this some kind of joke?" I looked over the bill and I say, "Oh yes, I apologize. I'll correct the bill immediately." Again, she felt a complete sense of relief, thinking that she got someone else's bill. And she says as I leave, "Fecking idiot," and went on talking to her friends. To be fair, I did make a mistake. I forgot to count the 8th order of a dozen oysters, which cost $120 per an order. So I gladly went back and added it to the order. When I went back to give her the correct bill, she flipped out, going crazy. I asked her, "Is there something on the bill that you didn't order?" She and the girls looked shocked, and they go over every single line of the bill. including the first few lines that show their original 3 rounds, which say complimentary. They then took out their phones and line by line went over everything on there for the 100th time, trying to add everything up. Extremely rattled, Queen Bee simply said, "I need to use the restroom." Part of me thought that she might pull a dine and dash and leave the baby Karens with the bill, but I did low-key remind her that I had her ID and credit card without making it obvious that I thought she was going to run out on the bill. 10 minutes later, she comes back with new makeup on, obviously because she's been crying. Then she makes this claim: "The food was awful and the drinks were bad. I demand the bare minimum. You should cut the bill in half, and I'm not gonna need you girls to chip in." Where originally, she told them that the night was on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she mentioned her relationship with the owner again, as if to give her an additional incentive to cut the bill. Holding back a grin at this point, I told her no. Just no. I couldn't change the bill. She whipped out her phone. She shows me a series of texts from someone called my restaurant's owner, which was pretty much what I realized she was doing in the bathroom. She probably changed one of her other Karen Minion's contacts, deleted the previous text, and started a new script. I got her phone and I read the text. "Yeah, this is not the owner's cell number. He's got multiple phones for business and stuff, of course. You don't know all of his number." I thought in my head, wow, this girl thought of everything, except that I'm the actual owner. So I went ahead and told her, "Tell you what, you call him, and if he says to take off 50% of the bill, I'll do it." Her reply was a yelling and screaming, to the point where a few of the remaining customers began to start looking over. And now I knew it was time to end this. I went ahead and told her in a less accommodating tone, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You've never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police." Her demeanor changed, and she tried to defend herself the best she could. My reply to her weak comebacks was, "My grandparents founded this restaurant. My family's been running this place for generations. I've worked here almost my entire life. I am the one and only manager of this restaurant, and I've never seen you before. I've never heard of you, and I have definitely never promised a stranger that I don't know and have never met before." The mini Karens were frozen in fear, and they didn't even know how to react. Queen Bee Karen was in tears. I said, "Now I gave you the table that you wanted, that are specially reserved tables. They're for high-end clients, and I didn't charge you for the first drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I'll call the cops. I have your ID." In tears, the Queen Karen signed the bill, and the mini Karens took out their purses, and they gave her whatever cash they had, which equaled to about maybe a couple of $100, with the promise to pay her back more. 2 days later, a man walks in, and he's fuming, and he asked one of the bartenders to speak to me. I was in the back working, so he waited a good half an hour. He was Queen Bee Karen's father. She was with him, and she was keeping her head down. I took them both to my office and showed them the highlight of my security cameras. They were especially good quality, in video and also in audio. That was the VIP section, which I keep very good records of, because I've had other incidents before that were unrelated. So I show them the most of it, their comments, their orders, and everything they said and did. When it was all done, he stormed out of there screaming at her the whole time. I haven't seen or heard of them either since. The bill that didn't count the oysters, I've got it framed on my desk. This happened a few years ago, when my parents still owned a Chinese takeaway. I was working the counter, and this guy came in, and he asked, "I want the spiciest chicken curry you have." So I just wrote the order down, some extra hot chicken curry, and he replies, No, I want the hottest that you can make. As Japanese people, they can't make spicy food worth a damn." With a big smirk on my face, internally I was thinking, oh, you want to make a racist stereotype? Well, challenge accepted. I took the order to the kitchen, and I told my dad, who was cooking, to nuke it with chilies. He added a handful of chilies, but I remembered I had some Blair's Ultra Death Sauce in the back, as I really like spicy food. This, unfortunately, was before Carolina Reapers, so I ran and grabbed it. Then I shook the bottle as hard as I could, until I got about 3 tablespoons, and it went from a curry color to a dark glowing red. I sent it out and I said, "Enjoy your meal." 1 week later, the guy returns and he says, "I'll have your chicken curry, please." I reply, As hot as we can make it? With an innocent smile on my face, and his face almost turns white, and he responds, no thank you. It was, pretty spicy last time. I spent most of the night with a sore stomach, and I drank at least 2 liters of milk. So I guess I was wrong. It was a lot more than I could handle. About a decade ago, I worked at a warehouse. It was a big warehouse. It served the northern half of Alberta. We had several dozen shipments that day, so each one had several pallets, averaging 5 foot high. To meet this demand, we had at least 20 or 30 guys in my position alone. Just in our section, we had at least 100 other people. New hires got to enjoy the special interview every week for at least 3 months, in which the supervisors would politely tell us that we weren't cutting the mustard, and that we wouldn't last through our probation if we didn't speed up significantly. It was great for morale. For about 6 weeks, I would hear the same supervisor call out my name, mispronouncing it, and this was over the PA system every time. I would walk into the supervisor's office, and I would correct him. Think the name Major. He wouldn't pronounce it Major, he would pronounce it Major. 6 times he did this. I was sick of correcting him, so I walked into his office and I calmly said, "My name is Major. I've told you 6 times now. The next time, if you call Major, I won't answer." "What's wrong with Major?" He asked this seriously. "It's someone else's name." The next week, when my turn came up, the voice blares over the speaker. "Major to the shipping office. Looking for John Major to the shipping office." I went about my job. 5 minutes later, he calls again. "John Major to the shipping office." Again, I ignore him. 20 minutes pass. Several more calls. "John Major to the shipping office. John Major, please report to the shipping office." Another supervisor comes searching for me. "John, Alan's been calling you for a while now. You need to get going." No he hasn't. He's been calling for John Major. I told him that's not my name 6 times in a row now. But if I see John Major, I'll tell him that Alan's looking. "Alan is looking for you, so let's go." "You tell Alan if he wants to see me, he needs to call me by my name." "Well, what's your name?" "He knows." The supervisor walks away, and I keep on working. "John Major to the shipping office." I've worked there for years now, and he never needed correcting again. I'm a massage therapist, and I have a reputation for my firm pressure and deep tissue. Tonight a male came in, and right off the bat he was extremely rude. He was someone I've never seen before, and from the start, he felt my establishment had not met his needs. I start off with the usual conversation, set up the ground rules. Due to the current health standards, I calmly explain the rules, and that they're for his safety as well as mine. He tolerates me going on through the details, but I can just feel that it's far from over. He tells me about his problems, and I begin asking him how he feels about certain areas, and that they require permission. Again, he cuts me off, and he starts telling me that I'm the therapist and that I should know what he needs and what he wants. Again, I explain the protocol, and that it's for his safety and mine. Well, the jerk goes off, and he starts telling me that I'm wasting his time, and that the entire spa is useless. Overall, just rude comments. I finally just tuned it out. I could feel my blood boiling, and I'm just about to refuse service when I catch the last thing that he says. "I came in here needing a deep tissue, and they gave me the most timid therapist they can. You obviously have no idea or the ability to give me the pressure I want. Firm and heavy." "Deep tissue?" "Yeah, but your hands are so soft, and you look like you probably need help. Maybe you should bring someone in with you so that they could show you what to do." I just smile, and I leave the room informing him that I would return and perform the service, giving him the time to get on the table. I tell my boss what was going on, for they could overhear that he was rude at the front desk, and ask if I want to refuse service, because his behavior is unacceptable, and I tell her that I can take care of it. So I go back in the room, and the first thing he asks, if I brought someone with me with more experience. I smile wickedly, knowing what he was about to experience and that he could not see my expression. "Sir, I assure you that I'm more than capable of meeting your request." "Maybe if you lay off the sugar and work on your structure, you probably could. Tell you what, sweetie, just give me whatever you got and maybe it'll tickle." Now, I'm not small or muscular, and I'm about 5'7", but I don't consider myself fat, but I have a big structure. I come off nice and pleasant, so that most don't know my capabilities. At this point, I get the drape for the back, lower the table as low as I can, crack my knuckles, apply the gel to my hands, then press down with my first stroke. Every ounce of pressure that I can muster. I hear him gasp in surprise. I do my entire warm-up like this, and he finally manages to hiss out, "Too much!" He was defeated, and he said he got the picture. He now knew that I was more than capable. He didn't say anything else. He didn't apologize, but the front girls told me he did apologize to them for his behavior, and asked to never see me again. He also stiffed me on the tip. My boss asked me what happened, and I told her. She laughed and she said, "Well, he did ask for a deep tissue." I suppose the moral of this story is, don't mess with your massage therapist, especially if they're nicknamed Amazonian Hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Malicious Compliance. Woo! Well, it's getting hot in here. I had to turn off the air conditioner so I didn't mess up the audio. I've got some other lineups this week. I'm gonna try my hand at creepy, but I'm gonna start off a bit light. And it's gonna have a twist to the story that it becomes kind of funny. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'll probably get darker as it goes by. We'll go from there and see how it goes. It'll probably be a shorter video, seeing that that'll be 3 videos in a week. I don't know. We'll roll with this organically and see where it goes. Thank you for joining me, and a special thanks to my patrons. Your support is invaluable. Please like, share, and comment. Especially comment. I really enjoy reading them. I try to read every single one, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not, please subscribe for more. Well, until next time, this is Dallas, signing off.